Hello everyone, I hope this video is not too echoey. I'm filming in my office and it's still kind of empty because they haven't fixed the things yet, but hopefully I can deal with this. But yeah, I thought today I will talk a little bit about my favorite classics. I have to preface this by saying that I'm not a classics person. I do not read a lot of classics and I do not enjoy a lot of classics, but I thought I would choose some anyway to share with you, because maybe you are also a person that normally does not like classics. I have chosen 5 classics and 5 modern classics, so let's just go through them. The first book I have for you today is The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. Now, if you have read The Picture of Dorian Gray and you thought it was okay, I thought the same, but his plays are quite different. They're very humorous, they are lots of fun, and they also always have social commentary, which is a combination that I really enjoy. And The Importance of Being Earnest is about these 2 guys. They are both called Ernest, and they want to marry certain women, and they constantly confuse each other. It's a silly premise, but it is a lot of fun, and I would recommend to listen to the audiobooks in general for plays, because it just feels a lot more like a play should be. So yeah, that's my first recommendation. Then I will go to the Spanish classic, which is Don Quijote de la Mancha by Miguel de Cervantes. And this is a big book, but it is worth it in my opinion. It is considered the first novel of the Western world, a modern novel. And it is about this man that read a lot of books about knights and cavalry, and he decides that he's going to become a knight. So he takes some weapons from the house and he takes his horse and he goes around trying to be a knight, even though people do not follow that kind of lifestyle at that point in time. There's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of snark, and I would recommend. Then the third one I have is Orlando by Virginia Woolf. Again, similar to Oscar Wilde, I did think that Mrs. Dalloway and the Waves and all of that was okay. I didn't find anything particularly appealing to me, but Orlando is a very strange book, so probably it's not for everybody, but it was definitely for me, so it might be for you as well. It's about this person that lives throughout several centuries. He's able to change gender randomly at part of the book, so it will suddenly be a woman, suddenly be a man, and that way it is able to explore the roles of gender throughout history, of course, and I thought it was a brilliant way to do it. I have to say that Virginia Woolf is a bit of she's very aware of her class, and she does consider lower class people less worthy, and you can see that in the book. You could say it's something of the time. I personally find it problematic. If you can deal with that, I think the book is a really interesting view of gender. The next one I have for you is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and this is again a classic that a lot of us know the general idea of, but I think that comes a lot from pop culture, and the book is quite different from the general idea that most people have of Frankenstein. So Victor Frankenstein is a scientist, and he wants to see if he can create life. So he takes human parts, sew them together, and with electricity, which was like the new thing at the time where Shelley wrote this, is able to give life to this character. And it looks at the humanity of people and what makes someone a monster. So in this case, Frankenstein's monster, the creature that he creates, is considered a monster. However, he's a much kinder human than Victor Frankenstein. So at the end of the day, it is what makes you human. And as well, what is the effect that people can have on others, because this monster starts being a very kind person, but by the end of the book, he has gotten so much hate, he might become negative towards others. And the last classic that I have for you is actually children's classic, and that is Heidi by Johanna Speer. This book you probably also know because of the cartoon. It's about a little girl that goes to live in the middle of the mountains with her grandfather, and she has to live there. She becomes really happy. She really loves nature and running away around all the animals and everything. She doesn't mind the simplicity of the life there, but the adults around her decide that this is not good for her and she should go to the city to learn how to become a woman. So they send her to Frankfurt to be the companion of a rich girl that has a disability, and then she realizes how hard that is, and she tries to run away several times, and you just follow her adventures on that place. So yeah, I loved that book when I was little. I read it like 1,000 times, and it's one of the lesser talked about books, children's classics, I feel, and I want more people to read it, so that's why I included it in this video. Now if we go for the more modern classic, the first one I have is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. And I know this is a controversial one because it's about a pedophile from the point of view of a pedophile, and therefore it is trying to make you sympathize with him, whereas he's doing very horrible things. But this, it's written first of all in a very approachable way. I read this, I devoured this, and also it makes you think about why pedophiles might do what they do, which I think is so useful to be able to deal with the problem. And this combines very well with a play I saw a few years ago, in which it was, I think, a university play that this student put together, and afterwards we could talk to the students that created those plays, and the one that I remember connected to this is he said that he was abused as a child by an adult in his life, and through that experience he thought about what would make someone do that, and then he realized that although it is horrible to do what they did, and it is a choice to act on those feelings, the feelings themselves are not a choice. Nobody chooses to become a pedophile. Nobody chooses to be attracted to children. So yeah, I think that should be part of the conversation if we want to solve the problem, because by just saying these people are horrible because they are doing these things, yes, of course, it is true, and I'm not justifying that action, but at the same time we have to be aware that those feelings that these people have exist and are out of their control. I think it's a really interesting exploration of that. The next modern classic I have is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, and this one is a classic of African literature, and it's about a village in Nigeria and this boy and his life when the colonizers first came. So at the beginning of the book he has a life within his tribal home, and he is perfectly happy, but then when the colonizers come with all the schools and all the things that they brought to Nigeria in this case, he is sent to one of these schools, and he struggles with the balance between those two worlds he lived in, and I think it is relatively common to see stories about the colonizers but not so much about the colonized, and this is a great story about the colonized that I think everyone should read. The next one I have is The Hobbit by J.R R Tolkien, and again this is more of a children's or middle grade classic, but in my opinion it's better than the Lord of the Rings. And that is because the Lord of the Rings is very dense and very difficult to get through. But the Hobbit, because it's a middle grade, it's the same magical world and the same magical kind of story. So the films are the same, but it's so much easier and nicer to read. Basically, we're following Bilbo Bolsón, who is a hobbit that wants to explore the world, and like most hobbits, so he goes in an adventure, and we follow Bilbo Bolsón in that adventure. And yeah, and this is before the Lord of the Rings. So if you read the Lord of the Rings first, it might spoil things, so just be aware. The next one I have is Siddhartha by Herman Hesse, and this is a very short book, and it's about how Buddha came to be. So it follows the prince of this village, or like this kingdom in Tibet, I believe, that had everything and decided to give everything away so that he could find enlightenment. And yeah, I really liked it. Back when I read it, I thought it was very spiritual without being overly preachy. So if you're into that kind of thing, maybe this will be your thing. And the last one that I have is again another Spanish classic, but this time it's a modern classic, I would say, and it's Nada by Carmen Foret, which translates to nothing, and it's about this girl around 18 years old that moves from her parents' house into her aunts and uncles in Barcelona because she wants to study, and it's her struggles in that house in the 1940s, I think, 1940s, 1950s, which is a time in which Spain was still a dictatorship, but there was no war anymore. And we just explored the Barcelona at the time and her issues with her family. She was abused, so trigger warnings for abuse, and how she's able to get away from that. And the writing was great, and it makes you go into the story and feel all the feelings. It's also very harsh, but I think it fits the story. So yeah, those were all my classics recommendations. Let me know in the comments if you have any other classics that you might think I would like. If you have something a little bit out of the box, I would love your recommendations. And until next video, bye!